enters the doorway of joy. There is a river whose streams may glad the city of God. I'm sorry, our little baby had to leave. I like the baby talk. It brings us back to life a little bit. But those are the great contradictions in this life. And ironically, while Jim was in the hospital dying last night, I was performing a wedding for a couple of our new members, and eventually made my way to the hospital later that evening. Mimi was there, and she stayed all through the night with Jim and with the family. But we know about experiencing God through the great joys of life, the great celebrations of life, the great moments of life. That makes a little more sense to us, and we embrace those times. And sometimes we equate the life of God with the life of joy, and that's true, but that's only one doorway. There's another doorway, and maybe it's the most direct doorway. Maybe it's the thing that takes us most closely to the very essence of the divine being, and that's the doorway of grief. And there's something about this experience of grief, which is an emotional state that comes as we experience great losses in our lives, that strips everything away. It just strips us down to the bare essentials. All the props, all the fluff, all the facades. And it causes us to go very deeply within and ask those central existential questions, those human questions, those spiritual questions which human beings have always asked. What am I here for? Where did I come from? What is my purpose in life? And that's the doorway of grief. Grief is a portal into another dimension, another level of communion with God. And to survive grief, we have to practice the spiritual discipline of what I call letting go. And I told you before, that's one of my big three. The things I work on all the time. The key to my own spirituality. Finding forgiveness, living in gratitude, and learning to let go. The letting go. It means that we come to terms with the transience of life, the impermanence of life. And yet, recognizing our own finitude and the limitations of life, we find joy in the moment. We find joy in the experience. We find joy in every aspect of what we go through in life. We don't edit life's experiences. We live as Jesus lived, unconditionally, embracing all of life, finding joy in this moment, not holding it tightly so we squeeze the life out of life, but letting go as we live. And I'm reminded of the words of William Blake, "He who kisses the joy as it flies lives in eternity's sunrise. But he who binds himself to a joy does the winged life destroy." Now I understand this when I look at little children at play. And I saw one on the beach, a couple little toddlers, maybe 4 or 5 years old, building this beautiful ornate sandcastle. They must have been working at this thing for hours, and they were old enough to understand the ebb and flow of the tide. And that the next day, that sandcastle would be washed away. And yet they took so much joy and pleasure in building and enjoying the structure. And that's the way life is. There's this ebb and flow. There's a time for everything, as Ecclesiastes said. There's a time to be born, and there's a time to die. There's a time to go to a wedding, and there's a time to go to a funeral. And the currents of life, that ebb and flow, are going to impact every one of our lives in many, many different ways. And if we can learn somehow to kiss the joy as it flies, to cherish these moments, and to squeeze as much as we can out of them, and yet not try to control life, but to really learn what it means to let go day by day. In so many ways we have opportunities to learn to let go. Sometimes it's letting go of our youth. And somebody told me the other day, for the first time in my life, I'm feeling old. My mind still feels young, but my body tells me I'm getting old. That's hard to let go of your youth. It's hard to let go of your security. It's hard to let go of your family. It can even be the most challenging thing we've ever done to let go of our own lives. And Mimi can testify to this, that there comes a point when someone is actively dying and they know they're going to die, they may be unconscious, that they have to choose to let go. And that can be a beautiful thing, that moment, when that happens. And that person enters then, releases their own life, and enters that other dimension of reality, that beautiful place, which we know about only allegorically, metaphorically, where there's no more pain or suffering or heartache or limitation. But there's something that keeps us from letting go, and that is fear. Fear is the great enemy, the great culprit that keeps us from letting go. And so the psalmist said, God is our refuge and strength, therefore we will not fear. Though the waters should foam and roar, we will not fear. Though the mountains tremble, we will not fear. Jesus said the same thing. Fear not, for I am with you, lo, always, even to the ends of the earth. And I was privileged to be able to share that with Nell as she died. And she was so at peace. And she so understands in the depth of her soul that deep reality that we need not fear, even facing death. The great enemy has been conquered. The fear of death. The fear of our own finitude and limitations. Fear not, for I am with you always, even to the ends of the earth.